What?
You look like Mary Poppins.
Is he cool?
Hell yeah, he's cool.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!
Top of the day to you all, Spits Bob, Piffy Wiffy, Tip Top and all the rest. Would you like some lashings of ginger beer? I thought so. Oh, what a delight. Oh, what a do. Hello there, campers. My name is Paul Hughes. I am the Lord of Leisure, and I have to talk to you in this peculiar voice for at least 20 more seconds. Why? Because it's an aftermath about Mary Poppins Returns, an exquisitely English accented film in which everyone talks way over the top English and gets on your nerves in the first 3 seconds. I'm sorry. There was no way I was going to keep that up. You see, I'm going to have to depart now. So, no, I'm going to stay here and actually talk to you about Mary Poppins Returns. In this, another Aftermath video where, upon obviously visiting a local cinematic emporium, I then come back and rest my posterior upon thy chair to then talk to you about what I thought about the whole thing. Let's do that, shall we? Oh, yes, and occasionally talk posh and what people think us English types talk like. So we do, so we don't. I don't know. You're probably going to guess one of my grievances just from the intro in itself. But before we go any further on that, let's just have a quick chat about Mary Poppins Returns. Even though I tell you what, the title sounds like a horror film. Mary Poppins Returns. Seriously, if you didn't know what it was, you could seriously just end up with the Russian guy from John Wick turning up and going, Baba Yaga, when Mary Poppins floats down on the screen. Who knows? It might turn into, if Disney makes all the monies from this, then they might turn that into a horror film where, yes, let's have this strange woman that floats down from the sky come in and look after your small children. Yes, there's nothing wrong with this, is there? Yes, make her look after all the children. Mary Poppins Returns. It is the direct sequel to the 1960s based, I would say 1960s based. It's made in the 1960s, Mary Poppins original film, which did star Julie Andrews. I think, yeah, it was Julie Andrews, wasn't it? Yeah, Julie Andrews was the original Mary Poppins, and Dick Van Dyke was Bert, you see, the Cockney jack of all trades / English accent murderer back in the day, where they looked after the Banks family. They had a few laughs, songs, there was some other silliness that went on in the background with the parents, that type of thing, and everyone was happy in the end. The end. So, because Disney wanted all the monies, and they've been busy doing an awful lot of either sequels or remakes to a lot of the stuff that they had previously, like Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella. God, they're even making another Toy Story. Yeah, this is the thing. Later on this year, you're going to see Toy Story 4. Actually, that doesn't look too bad from the trailer, I do have to admit. But obviously, we're doing something like Mary Poppins in terms of a sequel, where they had a mixture of music, animation, whimsy, exquisite Englishness is the way I'm going to put it. Obviously, coming back to that type of thing in 2018, even though I've watched this now in January 2019, that I suppose the obvious thing to do is to compare it between the first one done in the 60s and what they did now. So, in that context, just even before going into the story or anything else, is this good in comparison to the 1960s Mary Poppins? Absolutely. And you know what? It was astonishingly entertaining. The first 2/3, absolutely brilliant, and the last third, descended into complete bollocks with some of the stuff that goes on. Yeah, maybe it's because I'm an adult, but even I was just going, oh, for fuck's sake, and I was laughing my ass off when I really shouldn't have been. But again, Kids film. This is rated U, universal, suitable for all in the UK, which is borderline impossible to get. Everything these days is either PG or 12 rated. So, yeah, the fact that they really went for the proper kids rating, you know, all credit to them. So, what actually happens in here? Well, for starters, Mary Poppins obviously returns, and but not quite yet. You see, we go into a Victorian style-y time. I mean, I'm never entirely sure exactly when about it absolutely is, but it's a period of depression, as it were, with people still going about their day, but also having to worry about monies, you see. And what has happened to the Banks family since? Obviously, the kids have grown up, and that's who they base this on. It's the kids from the first Mary Poppins that have now all grown up. Michael played by Ben Whishaw, so basically Q from the recent James Bond films and God knows whatever else. He's Michael Banks. He was He now has kids of his own, but he's lost his wife. So now, single parent situation. His sister, played by Emily Mortimer. Why did I say it like that? Emily Mortimer, thank you. Is now playing Jane Banks, his sister, and she's helping Michael out where she can, while also apparently being a labour organiser and so forth. Apparently, this is during a time of great strife where they're trying to get everyone to have rights and all the rest of it, which is interesting. I think some of that came up in the original film. I can't quite remember, honestly. But the scene is set for an awful lot of shenanigans and dilly-dallying. With the three kids who are just like full of life, la, 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 running around and all the rest of it, but being jolly uptight and well put together. They know how to look after themselves and everything else, which is astonishing, frankly. But then again, I suppose it is still in keeping with how people were brought up back in God knows when it was. You got Julie Walters as the housekeeper, who basically, it seems that this film was just yet another excuse to get all the usual British actors out for the American audience. And, oh yes, I've seen them, they're very good, aren't they? Yeah, just to do that type of thing. You're pretty much going to see that, along with Colin Firth. David Warner was a surprise, to be perfectly honest. As an old admiral who basically sits on the roof of his house and fires a cannon off. How the police still allow this, I don't know. He's firing a fucking cannon every hour on the hour, it seems, because, and he's complaining about Big Ben being off for most of it. He's just there. I don't know. It's weird. It's there. Yeah. And then, of course, we've got Lin-Manuel Miranda, who basically has taken time out from doing Hamilton and various other things in the US to turn up as Jack, a Cockney lamplighter, and he basically is Mary Poppins' psychic, although to be perfectly frank, he could also do an awful lot of the film himself. Now, to be fair, his Cockney English accent at times is a little bit, but then again, I've got a problem with the English accents overall in this, especially in the opening 20 minutes. We'll get onto that later. Bit more of the story. It turns out that Michael hasn't been doing that well without his wife. He took out a loan with the bank. The bank now want to foreclose on the house. And if they don't come up with the money by Friday, then in essence they lose the house. It's Monday, basically. It's a Monday to Friday job, this whole thing, when it takes place. So that's basically the backdrop of what you got it. And oh no! This is when various other things happen. The kids go off for groceries just to help out. There's a kite that gets thrown out and then goes flying in the air. One of the kids gets hold of it through the park when they're running through, blah, blah, blah. And then when the kite goes up in the air and Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with pronouncing his name quickly. Lin-Manuel. I'm going to go stick with that. Lin-Manuel goes and helps one of the kids fly the kite in the rain and everything else. And lo and behold, it brings down Mary Poppins in an insanely omnibus fashion. Omnibus? In an insanely big word I can't pronounceify correctitude. Or not entirely demonic. So obviously Mary Poppins comes down, played by Emily Blunt, who frankly does an excellent job. Really does an excellent job. Again, English accent played up a wee bit too much. A little bit too much. I'm so gonna get into that. So then she turns up. She basically says, "I'm looking after the kids." Whether Michael and Jane say yes, no, or otherwise, they just go with it. Because again, why not? You have this strange woman come out from the sky on a kite again and just say, "Right, I'm doing this. I'm looking after your small children." And that's not scary or evil in any shape or form. Of course not. Yeah, I'm really going with this. Oh dear. Of course it's not bloody evil. It's a kid's film, which adults can enjoy too. And so they go. They're obviously muddy from the park and everything else because of reasons. So therefore, they go off to a bath, and that's when you start seeing more of the silliness and some of the songs to go off. And slowly but surely, we have a variety of musical numbers, situations, and also I do have to admit, this is where some of the best stuff in the film is going to be. It's in the musical numbers, absolutely. I mean, a lot of what they set up on the stage could actually be transferred to a real stage here in the West End or on Broadway. The way it's shot and performed, and certainly choreographed, some of the choreography is fantastic. It really has to be said. There is a couple of definite terrific songs along this, especially with what happens in the when there's a priceless Royal Dalton bowl that gets chipped, and then in order to fix it, they have to have a song about it before they go off to fix it. But they end up in the bowl with Chris O'Dowd as the most Irish dog you'll ever see. Yes, and all animated, by the way. They do actually use some of the old style animation techniques as well for doing a mix of live action and animated set pieces within this. It's all fantastic, all very well done, and it's the cover is not the book or otherwise is the most memorable song of the whole film, and it was done incredibly well between Emily Blunt and Lin-Manuel. It's it is just one of those things that you go, yeah, absolutely. It's those parts that bring you basically on board for everything else that goes on. Now, in terms of what else happens with the plot, you got Colin Firth, who turns up as an evil bank manager, who basically is the bad guy for all this, and various things form along as the race against time for Michael and Jane to find the bank shares, the bank's family shares in the bank, so they can pay off the loan and keep the house and all the rest of it. Blah blah blah. All carries on. All the meantime, Mary Poppins, along with the kids, go and do various little things which turn into a song and dance and all sorts of whimsical things. Absolutely all the way along. We race along to the final third, which it's at that point that even as I'm cynical and old and, forget me, because I know obviously it's made for kids. It's when that really all goes up the wall, and I just end up laughing at some of the absurdity that goes on screen. And also, there's one part where I'm very much convinced that Mary Bobbins, oh no, not Poppins, Bobbins, Mary Bobbins is so bloody lazy, they let all the gaslighters go and do something to try and help out the Banks family keep their house, and they're struggling up, trying to get up this mighty erection. That's all I'm saying for the purposes of this review. No complete spoilers. And then she just floats up, when she could have just done all that in the first place, the lazy mare. Honestly. But anyway, notwithstanding, he saved the day, blah, 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 all the rest of it. Now, I've said that the musical numbers are clearly the best bit. The opening 20 minutes, which I've alluded to, it's sort of force-fisted down your throat, the level of Britishness and Englishness of everyone with this. And obviously, as someone in the UK who obviously was born here, grew up here, I know that was done for the American audience. Absolutely get that. But fucking hell, you've got to tone it down just a little bit. I mean, thankfully, after the opening 20 minutes, it does start to go down a little and therefore become far less grating. But just the opening part where they're establishing where the Banks live and how everyone is and so forth, it's just a bit much, even I can't go without you, obviously, without you complaining that your ears are bleeding. It's kind of like that. That aside, there's a couple of pointless bits. I mean, Meryl Streep turns up in this as a scene as Topsy, Mary Poppins' cousin from a questionable European country with the accent. Seriously, again, what is it with accents in this film? Fuck knows where she comes from. It could be Portsmouth for all the difference it makes. But they have a song and dance about looking at things in a different way, and everything's topsy-turvy, and then you're looking at a different way at viewing things, blah blah blah, and that's it. It's just it's kind of there, and it feels like it's just there to pad the runtime. So you could take it or leave it that bit, honestly. I suppose Colin Firth as the bad guy, he's suitably U-rated level bad guy. It's basically a pantomime bad guy performance that you're going to have. And boo! Yeah, the serious fellow. No, we don't like him, do we? And we have a couple of lawyers that works for the bank that, again, one of them's like, oh, no, we must do everything Colin Firth says. And the other one is clearly the fellow who is the nice lawyer. You see, lawyers are nice. We've learned that, haven't we, boys and girls? And it's okay. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed Mary Poppins Returns very much so, and I would definitely say it's worth a watch. Certainly with little kids, they're going to have an absolute ball with this. Make no mistake, it is thoroughly entertaining, shockingly so. And even if some of it's played a wee bit too straight, where, with, oh yes, let's just do this and all the rest, righto, I know. It's all with the period, the audience that you've got in mind for this. I get it. there were times that, I needed a drink. Ah, dear. But overall, I have to say, they did an exceptional job. They really did. And I tell you what, I would say that Disney actually did put a lot of effort into this. It wasn't just like, oh yes, we'll just do a by the numbers thing, and then just chuck it out the door. Far from it. The premise is simple enough. The effects, animation, the songs, a lot of them are fantastic. And I tell you what, one thing that would surprise me is they have at least acknowledged that you can have more serious plot points within a children's film without it being too much. It's the fact that this is in whenever it is, the time period that Mary Poppins is supposed to be popping up, as it were. It's the fact that they have a single parent storyline as like a backdrop to why some of these things are happening, especially with the bank loan being taken out because they needed to help out, finance the home and so forth. And Michael Banks, Ben Whishaw, he's struggling at times, and he snaps, but then he's sorry, and it's done in actually a very suitable and not over the top way. There is pain there, and the kids acknowledge that, and there's quite an interesting revelation where he acknowledges that actually he thought he was looking after them, but they were actually looking after him, and that was kind of a nice moment there. It really was. In all the silliness that goes on with what you would expect in a Mary Poppins film, that was a real human moment, and it worked. It worked very, very well. So actually, all credit to them on just not sticking to absolutely everything that you would expect. Overall, this film would definitely have gone down well in the 1960s as a direct sequel if it came out pretty much a couple of years afterwards, because they hit a lot of beats, but they have also taken into a fact that filmmaking and some sensibilities obviously have moved on from when the film came out originally. So I definitely got to give them a wee bit of applause on that one. The number of actors that they do have in this it did surprise me. You do get a cameo from Dick Van Dyke. I mean, you've got this in the bloody trailer. I mean, you're not going to have him as obviously Bert again, just like with lots of white hair and so forth. But I tell you what, so when he does turn up and he does his little song and dance type thing, it's actually bloody damn good. And he is getting on, Dick Van Dyke. So all credit to him. A brief performance, but what he does, he actually gives it some wellies. So again, round of applause. However, there is one word of warning here. And it is about the balloon lady in the park towards the end of the film. It's Angela Lansbury. Yes, Jessica Fletcher's in here. And then you start wondering who's going to die, because every time Jessica Fletcher turns up, you know that someone's going to die, and then she's going to faff around trying to find who is it? Well, I don't know who it was, but it could have been him. It could have been her. No, you're a walking tsunami of shit. Run, everyone, run from Angela Lansbury. She will kill you all. Or is this too much? I don't know. So, after all that waffle and everything else, would I recommend you going to the big screen to see Mary Poppins Returns? Absolutely, if you've got small kids. It gets a little bit questionable the older you are, but from a pure entertainment standpoint, it hits an awful lot of the beats. Some excellent work in, like I said, in terms of the presentation. I hadn't even mentioned the gaslighters as a whole dance sequence where they're lighting the way when they're walking home at night trying to get back. And some of the choreography with the bikes and everything else, absolutely fantastic. Seriously, fucking brilliant work. Put it this way, there's a hell of a lot of good in this film that definitely negates the silliness at the end of the film. But yeah, all in all, it is absolutely fantastic. Mary Poppins Returns, Mary Poppins, y'all, is actually well worth a watch at the cinema, or indeed as and when it comes out on shiny disc and digital download. Absolutely, I've got to say, very happy that I watched it. And I can heartily recommend it to you all. So there you go, campers. Mary Poppins Returns. A welcome return to form, I should say. And that's today's Aftermath video. So, after all that, I have been Paul Hughes. I am still the Lord of Leisure. I'm going to get out of all this because I am sweating like the pig in Otie's dinner. And until next time, the next Aftermath video, take care of yourselves and each other. And beware of Mary Poppins, because she will return for you. Okay, bye-bye now.